My name is Carla Selp, and I'm the Public Engagement Specialist here at WSDA. In a few moments, we will be hearing from Sven Spichiger, WSDA's Managing Entomologist, who will provide an update on the Pest Program trapping season. After Sven provides a statement, we will take questions from the media. Before Sven begins, a couple of housekeeping reminders. Please remain muted unless you are called on to ask a question. For the best video quality for everyone, please keep your video off unless you are speaking. Also, this press conference is being live streamed on TVW, and a recording will be available on our YouTube channel after the press conference ends. Sven, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Carla. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. Thanks, Sven.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I'd like to give just a brief update on our survey season here at WSDA and throughout the Pest Program. So that we're all on the same page, I'd like to just alert everybody to a couple of name changes that happened. The Entomological Society of America has adopted the name spongy moth for what we used to call gypsy moth. So I will be using the term spongy moth to talk about our invasive moth programs. And what we used to call Asian giant hornet, the ESA has also adopted a new name, northern giant hornet. And that is what I will be using to refer to Vespa mandarinia, which we used to call the Asian giant hornet. So that's just for clarification. I'll start off with northern giant hornet. We are actually very pleased to announce that we have completed one entire season with no confirmed detections of northern giant hornet in Washington state. And I can also report that there were no confirmed detections just to the north of us in British Columbia as well. And this is really good news for everyone, including all of the citizens who have been doing traps, all of the people who have been calling in reports. All of your efforts have basically led to this first year with no detections. And that is not to say that the species has been eradicated. We have to complete 3 seasons of negative survey for regulatory purposes before we would declare it as eradicated. But this is year 1 with no detection. So we're just pleased as you can possibly be to announce that today. I'd like to touch a little bit on Japanese beetle as well. We had detected a rather sizable population of Japanese beetle in Grandview 2 years ago. And this past season, we were able to complete treatments in the Grandview area. And this is an area that spans eastern Yakima County and bleeds just a little bit over into Benton County as well. We completed several treatments of homeowners' properties in the Grandview area in 2022. And this has led to, hopefully a reduction in the population moving forward. Trapping from the Japanese beetle program statewide yielded only 1 additional detection outside of what we know about in Grandview, and that was in Richland, and that was 1 single specimen. And we also found a second population popping up in Wapato, which we believe is related to the Grandview infestation as well. We trapped fewer beetles than we did in 2021, not by much, but that's the good news, is the population did not double in size. And because we were using 3 times as many traps, we're getting far fewer beetles per trap. And most of the population is still centered in the Grandview area. So we're still going to be working at that over the next several years. To give you a comparison, it has taken 5 to 6 years in for similar sized infestations in places like Idaho and in Oregon, where they have been working on a population for the last 10 years or so. That is finally shrinking in size. So it didn't disappear overnight, which is what we predicted, but everybody's going to have to keep rolling our sleeves up and working hard to make sure that we eradicate Japanese beetle from Washington. Spongy moth survey, we had about 15,000 traps spanned out all over the state. And Unfortunately, we did have a bit of an increase in detections this year, but nothing that comes to the level of requiring treatment. There were 30 spongy moths detected in various counties throughout the state, and we will be responding to areas where we had detected spongy moths this year with delimiting survey next year. And that's basically more traps per square mile, if you will, in the areas where we have found moths. This is our standard practice. And again, nothing led to the level that would require any sort of real treatment options moving forward. I can report that there were no detections in the area where we picked up a single Lymantria dispar asiatica last year, and that is the Asian strain of spongy moth, if you will, over in Stevens County. We had elected to go with precision trapping over there, which means many traps per square mile, and all of those came up negative here in 2022, so we're very happy about that, and just pretty excited to report that the traps are working well over there and no additional detections. A little update on Atlas moth, which is something that popped up in Bellevue. That we believe this was a single specimen that escaped from somebody who was rearing these for sale. We were able to make contact with the individual, and they were issued a warning. The good news is despite some visual survey in the area and quite a bit of media coverage for this particular pest, we only received one additional report that was positive, but that was from 2 years ago in Toronto, Ontario. So we forwarded that information to our Canadian counterparts, and we're happy to report that there were no additional detections of Atlas moth in and around the Bellevue area or anywhere else in the state. One other invasive pest that popped up, for the first time was called Egyptian grasshopper, and this was a single specimen that was turned in the spring of 2022 in Everett, Washington. And we did conduct visual surveys of the area and found no additional specimens there. Unfortunately, some of our media coverage did lead to a report coming in, but not from Washington State, but from Oregon, in a town called Oregon, Oregon, and I believe Oregon has confirmed this detection. And so this is a pest we're going to have to keep a lookout for over the next several years. And it hasn't really been decided yet on a national level what departments of agriculture will be doing about this. But at least here in Washington, we will keep, we'll keep a vigilant eye peeled for this particular species as well. And again, we're happy to report no additional reports from Washington for this species. And I think that's pretty much everything. Carlo, is there anything I forgot to mention?
Nope, you covered everything. Thanks, Sven.
Yep.
All right, well, we are at the point now where we will take questions from the media. To ask a question, either enter your question in the chat and I can relay that to Sven, or use the raise your hand function and we can unmute you to so that you can ask your question directly to Sven. So we're now open for questions. I have a question in the chat from Joel. How many property owners participated in the spraying program in Grandview this year? Joel's from the Yakima Herald.
Boy, I should have that number right in front of me, but unfortunately I don't. It was, I believe, a little over 2,300, I believe was the number. But what I do know is we targeted approximately 3,000 properties, and we were not able to be granted access to all of them. So, more work to be done there. I know our crews are right now identifying parcels to be treated again. Again, this will be a multi-year project, and properties that were treated last year will require treatment again this year. We're actively seeking permission right now. And of course, we, encourage anybody in the Grandview area who's able to log into our website and go ahead and, grant permission for us to access the property. That just helps the whole project move along all that much faster.
Thanks, Sven. And I neglected to ask folks to identify which media outlet they are with. But Don Jenkins, I'm familiar with, and he's from the Capitol Press, had a question. Was the trapping effort for northern giant hornet as extensive this year as last year?
Yes, on the WSDA end, it certainly was. We had a little bit of a drop off in the volunteer traps that were put out this year, but it wasn't that much of a drop off. And so we had a gridded area that was approximately 1,200 traps, and it basically spans from the Puget Sound eastward towards just past Linden, if you will, right along the Canadian border. And then there's a separate grid that we run in Bellingham in a response to a 2020 detection of a queen that was found there. Nice thing about the Bellingham grids is we now have 3 years of negative survey for Bellingham. And so we will be dropping the Bellingham grids next year as a result of finding 3 years of negative survey there. But we will continue an additional 2 years spanning across basically the northern portion of Whatcom County, as we have done in the past 3 seasons.
Thanks. Mia Carlson with several different radio stations asked, were there any of the mentioned pests in Southeast Washington State or any issues found in that region?
Southeast Washington State, Japanese beetle, of course. Richland is near the Tri-Cities. There was a single specimen of Japanese beetle that was collected. We put up a rather sizable response grid in that area and collected no additional pests down there. And of course, the Egyptian grasshopper was found in Oregon, Oregon, which isn't too far from there. So two of the pests in Southeast Washington.
Thanks, Sven. And just to follow up on a previous question, our media coordinator, Amber Betts, quickly got that exact number of properties, and the number of treated properties was 2,083. So there's that number for you.
Thank you, Amber.
I think that is all the questions in the chat, unless I missed one. Let me just double check. That looks like all of the questions that we have so far. So last call. Yes, Joel, please go ahead. So Joel asked, do you have any idea how the Japanese beetles may have spread to Wapato?
Well, when these things come out as adults, the adults can basically accidentally hitch a ride on anything that's stored outside. So if you think of an open bed pickup truck and it parks in an area where there's a bunch of adult beetles, it's not too hard to imagine an adult that has, already made it landing in a pickup truck and driving a few miles down the road to Wapato. And that's why, we ask everybody to be as careful as possible, but obviously, there are ways that they are going to escape. We don't believe anything was intentional. It wasn't from movement of plants or commodities that we're aware of. So basically it was probably human assisted spread, and there's very little we can do about that except for, inspect your vehicle before you leave the area, just give it a once over. And if you happen to notice them, make sure you take them out of your vehicle and kill them.
Thanks, Sven. Jeff arrived late and was looking for a recap on the northern giant hornet. This is being recorded, so you can get that on the recording, Jeff. But if you have a specific question, please let us know. Okay. Amber also posted in the chat, just for everyone's edification, and this was also linked in the press release. There was a video released today on with the Japanese beetle update from the Japanese beetle program managers, so you can check that out as well. And Don, I apologize, I did miss your question. Don Jenkins had a follow-up question. Could the wet and cold spring have impacted the northern giant hornets?
It's entirely possible, but you do have to realize we have been inundating the area with traps and eradicating anything that's found, uh, since 2020. And of course, they're in a new land, probably genetically compromised, if you will, because, and that is to say, they're probably a little bit inbred. So we have things working in our favor as humans this time. So that's good. What I can tell you is similar traps that we ran as part of research in South Korea this year, and that will be running in South Korea and Japan next year in its native range, seem to pick up the hornets no problem. So, with all things being equal and us not getting, the amount of reports that we received last year, we're a little more optimistic that some of the control activities have actually impacted this introduction. That's not to say that a cold, wet spring doesn't help, but our traps seem to have quite a few native yellow jackets, wasps, and we don't actually have hornets here, so yellow jackets and wasps in them like we typically find. All that was missing this year was northern giant hornet, and we view that as a great thing and a very positive first step towards eradication. So.
All right. Hopefully I haven't missed any other questions, but I think that is it. So we'd like to thank everyone for participating today. And as always, you can reach out to me if you do have any follow-up questions. Happy to work with you on that. And we are recording this, so the recording will be available on our YouTube channel, hopefully later today. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.